Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Anish, for the kind introductions. So we all know about tier two, tier three markets. It's been spoken in the morning session as well, and the the contributions which these markets bring to the Indian economy with the urbanization, economic progress in these regions have resulted in increased disposable incomes, leading to an aspirational lifestyle, thereby driving substantial growth in the fashion retail sector. Today, we have a diverse group of India's leading brands and retailers joining us in this panel. Some have their roots firmly planted in tier two and tier three markets, and some have successfully expanded from larger metropolitan cities. Let's uncover the key strategies that have led to their success in these dynamic markets. Is there one size that fits all, or do these strategies differ significantly from those which are employed in larger cities? To begin, I'd like to ask each one of you, what key insights or research did you prioritize before expanding, or do you prioritize before expanding into tier two and three markets? And how did these insights shape your entry strategies specific to these markets? Um, can we start with the lady in the panel?
Sure.
Mukta.
Thank you so much for getting us started. Pleasure to be here. So for MNS specifically, I think we've been on our journey of tier two and tier three city expansion for a while now. In fact, approximately 30% of our business, of our store estate is actually based in these cities. And for us, when the journey started a few years ago, I think there was a lot of insight picked up through various consulting assignments but we'd done, but primarily it was embedded in understanding what are the cities that we wanted to go into. And that was a combination of what is the customer demographic, what's the population looking like, what's the kind of spend that you seek, that kind of is happening. Now, while there was a lot of focus on understanding customer, equally to get into some of these cities, you also need to understand the play of real estate and what is available in terms of development, the supply of space to be able to carve out your stores, etc. And that is something that one has to closely kind of look at over a long period of time to continue to see where the development is happening, engage with developers ahead of time to ensure that you're able to plan it. And getting into each of the markets that we've kind of gone into, I think we've kind of experimented very different kind of things. We've looked at formats, full line formats to just lingerie and beauty formats, and tested how that plays out. We've also looked at aspects around, what's the store size that's optimum for us. So lots of learning that have kind of gone in with experimentation as well over many, many years. But primarily now at a stable stage, it is a little bit more focused about which cities do we want to get into. And a lot of that has to do with where is the consumption happening, where is the supply available, how does that city look in terms of, what are the other brands, what is the modernization index, because we are a Western wear category retailer. So those insights become extremely important. Various studies that, whether it's consumer behavior, it'll be Nielsen, or the EY retail report, or the work that we do with some consultants ourselves as well, which is focused and more targeted to our own strategy.
So, Mukta, if I may ask you a leading question, that you've been primarily a business which has operated out of shopping malls and less of high streets. So, when you look at tier two, tier three markets, if there is no mall in that city, do you still choose to ignore that market, or you go ahead with the reports which you've studied that there is a demand in those markets?
So we've experimented with that as well in reality, and our current strategy is in tier two, tier three specifically, it is pretty much a mall linked growth. Now, reality is tier 2, tier 3, depends, as I said earlier, on the westernization index as well. And sometimes getting footfalls into high street stores is not the easiest thing to do, right? Unless there is a cluster of stores that are there that kind of together make that, space very compelling. So it's predominantly a mall-driven strategy for us.
Okay. Harii, what have been your key insights or research points before you enter a market,
Good
specific
evening,
to tier
everybody.
2 and tier 3?
I think by virtue, the business itself is solving a big problem in the country. Statistically, we say that 50% of the India population has a vision correction that is required. So that was number one. The other thing was that we were very clear in our mind that we want to disrupt this market and make eyewear very, very affordable, right? So just at the cusp of e-commerce entering into the country, we started the business with online, and offline was very frugal at that point in time. And eventually, in those days, traditional method was to utilize partners in tier 2, 3 kind of markets. So as the e-commerce grew, I think the pin code consumption was a definite amount of data set for us. Plus our own online portal was another channel for us to actually to gauge that. And then eventually the serviceability also helped us to understand what the market size for us in those tier 3 and tier 2 cities were. So hence our strategies went about going through that. And luckily for us, space was a big asset. We don't have to open bigger stores. We generally operate at about 750, 800 kind of square feet stores, which has actually helped us to be where we are. We are 2,000 plus stores in the country, and 45% of them are belonging to tier 2, tier 3. So they are an immense pillar in terms of our growth strategy right from our inception.
So did you not look at the number of opticians in that city and then decide to, go and open X number of stores so that you can take business out of them?
So I think two things always work, right? One, when you go to a known pool, and the other thing is to take a pioneering kind of approach. I think with respect to tier 2 and 3, we wanted to break the local optician market share. That was our approach. So we would take adjacent price point brands because we still believe in the country that pricing is an important aspect for us to actually to go deep in roads, right? Even today, why I'm just taking the name Bata has been successful is that 99 price point, right? That 99 price point has worked that magic, that saving that 1 rupee is the middle class mentality that we have. So that way it has actually helped us to look at both the fronts. We not only looked at the pool of optical players available, we also looked at other consumptions, because R is solving the problem of vision correction. It is not just going and selling a sunglass, right? It is beyond that. So that's how we've played our game so far.
Excellent. Thank you. Mayank, you've been one of the oldest retailers in this country, or actually the oldest retailer in this country.
It's 144-year-old company.
Superb. So, and you've started a business in Delhi, and then gradually expanded to other markets, including tier 2 and tier 3 markets. What has been your key insight or research point before you go into a market?
So, being from Delhi, initially we looked at other markets in North India. That was the first logical step. But as Harii said, like half of the people need to get their optical vision corrected. And in India, almost 95% of people need to get married. So that's for us, primarily being in the celebration wear market. So every potential town is a potential place where we can be. But the number one metric that we look at is what are other national and regional retailers, what kind of revenue are they generating from that particular city. So we are very confident in terms of, if, depending on what their trading density is, we have a very good, we can make very reasonable assumptions on what kind of business can we generate. So that is our basic metric that we look at. And if we feel that that area has a big enough catchment and we can do a minimum amount of sale, then we look to enter that particular market.
So your store sizes vary from market to market, or?
It would vary from market to market. So mall stores typically are smaller. So mall stores would typically be anywhere from say 1200 to 1800 carpet. High streets tend to be bigger, from 1500, and they can go up to even 4000 square feet. So it would really depends, where we are opening and what the competitors locally, what kind of store sizes they have.
Makes sense. Raghu, you operate multiple
Yeah.
formats in this country,
Yeah, yeah.
a global player
Yes.
almost.
See, we
And
have, contrasting large format department store and private label valuation called Max and then Lifestyle. Then we have late gone into another super value brand called Easy Buy. So my memory goes down, when you look at Max, we never looked at the tier 1 or tier 2. The Max first store started in Indore, right? Way back in 2006, nobody would have heard up. And when I joined, we were 10 stores, and out of 10 stores, 7 stores were in tier 2, right? So we had hardly one store in Bangalore, one in Hyderabad, and not even in Chennai, right? Or one in Delhi. That's how we started. But time has come with the advent of malls coming up. So the more focus started coming back into the metros and tier 1s because the fashion is war, the consumption, the youngsters and the modern looking. But as the things go on by, look at it, the aspiration levels have become much better, especially the post 2010, 12, 13, when the data affordability became much better, telecommunication reaching the mobility and everything is going up, the social media picking up. So we could see a lot of change in the aspiration of the customers from tier 2. So today, if you look at it, out of close to about 600 stores of Max, it is 50-50 or probably 55-45. 45% of the stores are in tier 2, right? So district towns and things like that. But when it comes to large format stores, it is still more focused on the metros and the tier 1s, or probably the state capitals, right? So initially when the business was on the ramping up stage, we looked at the opportunity of no good malls should be left over because mall will attract its own footfall and things like that. But when there is a requirement came that we need to scale up the business, otherwise if you don't scale up in value, you will not be able to make the money, right? So then we have to look at expanding to even the high street and then tier 2, a differential model, differential pricing. I'm talking about the real estate cost. So which allowed us to move. Today we are 250 cities servicing from the Max point of view. But when it comes to lifestyle, it's about 35 cities, right? So quite interesting and divergent. And of course, we get into the analysis, especially if you look at it from the current period of time, a lot more analysis gets into the demographic profile, geographic profile, cannibalization of the stores, how the market is behaving, what is the economic strata, all those informations, you get a scale and then a lot of data comes in the picture for taking decisions. But 10 years back, it was more of a gut, number one, to be very frank, based on our own self-assessment and how the local retailers are doing. So we have some point of time, we had a benchmark. If Big Bazaar is doing, say, about 6 to 7 lakhs per day, so that's the city where Max can go. So that kind of a crude method also was adopted. But of late, now a lot more scientific approach is happening in terms of getting into the data analysis much better. And things have evolved. And now it has come to reach the scale. Now the expansions are happening based on very scientific method because e-commerce has also come. So we are able to understand the pin code level, density of population and things like that. So data-driven expansion is happening now.
I think gut plays an important role today also, and I firmly believe that signing stores or opening markets is a mix of art and science. There is no right or wrong. There is, yes, there is data which we look at from a scientific perspective, but at the end of the day,
I agree. When it comes to tier 2, yes,
it's art.
Data plays 50%, 50% is gut.
Satish, you've been primarily a tier 2, tier 3 player so far, and now you're moving into the larger tier 1s of the metros. What is your understanding of the tier 2 market in terms of what is your insight as to how you open a store or your mall, GV mall or Akruti to per se? Yeah.
Basically, actually, when we started GV Mall, we started in tier 2 cities because most of the people tends to go to tier 1 for their larger purchase. So we want to stop the people and buy it in their own locations. So we just started that. And as the corporates are coming into tier 2, we move to tier 3 and tier 4 cities, where we can easily accommodate people instead of going to tier 2 and tier 1. So we found there is a huge potential in tier 3 and tier 4 cities. So we just started with the help of, collaborating with the local mom and pop stores, where they help us to know the local language, their pricing, their tradition, their local events, and by help of the influencers, like their leaders and all, we started, we expanded in the tier 3 and tier 4 cities. Most of our stores are in tier 3 and tier 4 cities, where the huge potential is there, and major chunk of mass of people are in tier 3 and tier 4. So we want to expand in that area. So we started that.
So we've been trying to figure out or crack the code for success in these tier 2, tier 3 markets without having insights on consumer behavior. I think this discussion can't move ahead. So Mukta, you being from M&S, what has your experience been in terms of how consumers behave in tier 2, tier 3 markets versus larger markets in terms of metros or tier 1s?
Yeah, so I think consumers in tier 2 are more value-driven customers, right? And even for us, how we've kind of taken certain product decisions, how you kind of assort or grade a store and the kind of product that you put in has to kind of tie in with the expectation that the customer has in a tier 2 cities. Now, over a period of time, in fact, a very interesting fact and data that we were looking at more recently, there's nowadays, at least in our business, there's hardly a 10% difference in the ABV of a tier 1 customer and a tier 2 customer. So clearly the data is moving very fast. The customer behavior is also evolving rapidly. So what we're seeing is that once a customer starts to interact with the brand and you're able to build loyalty, you're able to continuously grow their basket. And that is, that's very interesting, which means that you need to remain invested in a tier 2 city and interact with customer in a manner that is more personalized, that helps them understand the brand better. They don't feel alienated when they first walk into a store, right? It can be sometimes overwhelming when you're, in a tier 2 city, you're not used to a certain kind of store, and then you kind of, you see a product that could look and feel very different. So just understanding the customer demographics. Now, of course, there's a lot more data that we see. I think Raghu mentioned as well, right? What is the competition landscape? What are the kind of stores that are there? What is the kind of sell-through that you're getting? But typically, there isn't too much difference now for us left in terms of either the number of times a customer is interacting with us, that's about 10% different, and the ABV, which is also just about 10% off now.
So where do you think the 10% gap is? I mean, how do we bridge that? And because the tier 2, tier 3 customer is also very aspirational.
Absolutely.
And he or she looks at the metros because they have been used to going to shop in those markets. Now when you go there and set up shop in their market. So why is there that 10% gap?
I think the 10% gap, there could be multiple reasons behind it. Is the assortment just absolutely right what they're looking for? How much of it can be localized, cover the cultural gaps between a tier 1 and a tier 2? Tier 2, you will see a lot more core that sells. Tier 1 still sees a lot more fashion that sells. Tier 1, you will see bigger pack sizes selling. Tier 2, you will see smaller packs selling. So I think there are some of those behaviors that kind of sit in terms of what's being sold in tier 1 and tier 2. But eventually, it's being able to capitalize on that sentiment and ensure the assortment's right. So I think that a lot of it has to do with the product play.
Harii, you operate 4,000 stores across the country. And what different consumer behavior do you see in tier 2, tier 3 markets versus a larger market like a Bombay or a Delhi?
Uh, as Mukta said, I think the line is getting blurred in terms of consumption pattern typically. Because if you see, there are a lot of social media influencers which are going global. And the connect is to reach out to tier 2 and tier 3 where they see a lot of aspirational audience looking towards these influencers and doing their consumption compared to the urban people. Right. So in a way, it is blurring in terms of the ABV or the ATV size. The only thing is that tier 2, tier 3 cities today are in the right mix, at least for us, in terms of technically speaking, a single vision vis-a-vis a dual vision. So the topography of elderly statesmen staying in certain pockets of tier 2, tier 3 is enabling us to bridge the gap in terms of the ticket size. But today, eyewear is becoming a lifestyle product. Though at a point in time, it was something, if you're not a 6x6, then you're somebody, stereotyped of not being a healthy person. From there, now eyewear is typically a part of your lifestyle. So even though you don't, you are 6x6, you tend to give yourself a better look. So you end up consuming frames. And that's truly
While you're solving a problem, you're solving it fashionably.
Absolutely. And in Lenskart, we truly have caught that up, and we have about more than 3,000 plus options and 10,000 styles to cater to both offline and online combined.
Mayank?
To your point, Mukta, why the ABV might be 10% lower. So, for example, the most premium customers, the rich customers of tier 2 typically go to tier 1 and shop. तो मेरा जो हल्द्वानी का लैंडलॉर्ड है, my manager called me up complaining कि सर वो मुझसे सिर्फ कुर्ता लेके गया और सीपी से 5 लाख रुपए की शॉपिंग कर गया. So this is what happens because they feel the biggest store is in the tier 1 city, the latest collection. So that's a challenge that might explain.
So the offering is different than in a
the sense
Haldwani
like in a town like Haldwani, I would probably push, my maximum Sherwani retail price would be like 50,000. I wouldn't have my 2 lakh or 3 lakh rupee Sherwani in a town like that, because most of the customers would not be wanting that. Having said that, also it's not uniform. Tier 2 and 3, when we say it's not uniform at all. Like some of the most expensive Sherwani, some of the most expensive tuxedos are sold in towns like Lucknow, Chandigarh, Jammu. So it really also varies on where you are, what you are, and also in terms of the positioning and everything. Like छोटे शहर में नाम भी बहुत जल्दी होता है, बदनामी भी बहुत जल्दी होती है. So the legacy, the trust, the service, it really helps you get a lot of repeat customers. But if something goes wrong, it's a small town, then it can have a very big negative, connotation attached to it. You have to be much more careful about the service standards and the relationship building when it comes to tier 2 and tier 3.
So taking a lead further on what you said, how do you build that trust? Because you are a new entrant and there have been legacy retailers in that market, especially in your space, where the shop owner knows the consumer by name and knows the 4 generations up and 4 generations down. How do you deal with that? How do you build that trust? What different strategy do you adopt in those markets, or you just wait and watch and
One thing is the fact that we are a brand from Delhi, so that helps, especially when it comes to North India. So that particular thing helps. We bring the latest fashion. So in terms of the product mix, the latest our collection would be the same in any of the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 stores. The price points might vary, but we'll have the latest collection everywhere. And also, our brand campaigns, that's where the advertising and marketing plays a big part. So that all helps the customer to feel that they're getting the, very premium product, and now it is in their city. And since we've been there forever, so they've been, in most cases, they've already associated our brand. They've been associated with a brand in, either in our Delhi stores or in our, in our Chandigarh store, in our Lucknow store. So one of these touch points has already been there for the customer. So I think these things help to break that. But yes, when you go to a new city, especially if you open in high street, it takes at least 2 years for you to break even. So that is a challenge. You have to struggle for the first year or 2.
So you mean malls break even faster?
malls break even faster or you go bankrupt in malls faster. Either way, it will happen fast.
I hope there are not too many mall developers sitting here. Satish, you touched upon local partnerships in the session before and slightly when you spoke last time. How important is our local partnerships or community building, especially in these markets where you know each and every second consumer you know by name or by their family name?
As we're talking about trust, because of the local partner, the trust will improve. Like the trust will be like you can build the trust. In Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, not only the major part is service. After service is also very important in these cities, which will develop, which will build your trust. And from them, we can understand the local taste, local pricing. They will teach you everything. So that's why we adopted this thing. Collaboration is a major advantage for us.
Harii, you also franchise a lot. So does local partnerships or community building help you versus your own stores in metros and tier 1s?
I think this story is true for most of the brands in the country. When you were an infant and crawling up and you wanted to start walking, I think these partners were holding up your hands and taking us through the journey. And through them, I think there have been a lot of learnings like what Satish had told in terms of understanding the consumer, their taste and preference, and rightly so the after sales service, and especially in our kind of business, it is very, very important because you don't want to play around with a wrong par, right? You will typically get blind very soon. So we are very, very mindful of those things. And the way that we go about is that we engage or we hire partner who are very keen in terms of contributing to the business, not just a mere investment, because we want their skin on the game, which actually helps us to bringing in new customers, right? With all the data sets available, and the pattern that we see, we will be able to bring back our people who are consuming our product. But for us to get a new set of customers, I think partners who are involved in our business actually really help us scale and make deeper inroads. So it's a very, very important cog to have in the business.
So in the interest of time, my last question, but I'll open it to the panel, and we can't get away with this without answering this question, because technology is something which we all talk about. We've talked about Omni, we've talked about digital marketing, we've talked about social. So how differently technology is leveraged in these markets, and anybody can take this question.
See, actually technology is now global. I don't think it is restricted to only Tier 1 or Tier 2, or it goes right up to Tier 4, Tier 5 also. Because everything is a press of button, everything is on the mobile, and what's happening in the world trend is it's all up to the interest of the consumer who wants to follow it. But today, if you look at it from the Gen Z and especially and then the television media, definitely the reach of fashion and what's happening around the world is very fast. So we can't be away from the technology adaptation, and more the education and the people mobility is happening, at least if not across the globe, or at least across the even regions, even in the state capital or the district that are towns, etc. The people are quite aware of what's happening on the digital commerce. And today we put up even a touchpad kiosks in the Tier 2 stores, because it is basically first to give the flavor of experiencing the customers, what kind of styles they make. It more looked like a marketing tool initially to start with. And over a period of time, we were even able to address the cut sizes, non-availability of sizes for quick customers to adopt and then place the orders, etc. Adaptation is very good. And of course, the technology is evolving every day. And AI and other things maybe in Tier 1, it will be much more prevalent. But definitely the digital commerce and digital touch points is making a big differentiation, especially in the fashion world in the Tier 2 markets. And customers are more willing to experience that. That's a trend now.
Harii?
I think from the morning I've been hearing a lot of panels talking about speed and agility. I think technology is bringing that to the foray, number one. Number two is that instant gratification is also becoming an important cog. When Amazon came, if I'm not wrong, they were saying 7-day delivery, and today Zepto is doing 10 minutes delivery. And today, with what Mr. Rajagopalan sir said, that looking at AI, so the experience part is coming into foray. A lot of fashion stores have already started putting those experiences on the fitting rooms where you can typically look, what kind of colored clothing is going to suit you. So I think it's a culmination of all three, getting faster delivery, getting that same experience, and trying to be in close quarters with what's happening around. I think that's what technology is bringing onto the foray.
Excellent. Mayank, would you like to add?
So, having a strong online presence, we've used a lot of technology right now in trying to build a presence online. So that has helped us when we enter in new markets. So even in tier 2, tier 3, it's helping us with discovery of the brand. And even like we've entered markets like in Pune and Bangalore, which are not tier 2 to 3, but a lot of customers who would have taken much more time to discover the brand are discovering us even in the platform like say Myntra or Ajio or even on our own website. And we allow exchanges, even if you buy anywhere, we allow exchanges to happen within the store, and we offer free alterations. So customer comes to the store, ends up buying from the store and becomes a offline consumer. So that's helped in the discovery process for us.
Satish, your last words.
Adding to this, not only this thing, for replenishment, technology is very needed because the store should look fresh every time he enters. Because of tier 3, tier 4 cities, we have very less population. They'll enter the store frequently, so we have to be on toes using technology to show our store fresh every time.
Thank you, everyone. So the key takeaways on cracking the code of for success in tier 2, tier 3 markets: consumer is as aspirational as in metros and tier 1s. They are no different. I think we should treat them with equal respect that how we do to consumers in the metros. Know them, give them the same experience. They are equally asking for the same product as well. And local partnerships are as important as they can be because they bring in local expertise, local knowledge, and your inroads to these markets pave their path to these markets in a successful manner. So thank you, panelists. Any questions from the audience? Anish is staring at me. Yes, please.
I actually have a question.
Yes. You want the mic?
Okay, this is, I guess, directed more towards Mukta and to you, Sumit. In the past, whenever we've had brands from overseas that have become available in India, the immediate reaction, only because we're complete snobs over here, is if everyone else can buy it, then I don't want to buy it anymore. So as a consumer, if you were buying Marks and Sparks or if you're buying Jack and Jones, you're no longer buying it because your neighbor can buy it too. Are you going to see that happening as you move towards tier 2, tier 3, tier 4? Is, as Mayank said, the guy doesn't want to shop locally, he wants to go to Delhi and buy it over there. Are you going to see that happening as India moves towards, or your brands particularly start moving towards that side of India?
So I think that kind of a consumer is there in all markets. Somebody who's in a metro doesn't want to shop in Bombay, they want to shop in Dubai. Somebody who's maybe in a Chandigarh wants to go to Delhi, not purely because of for that he doesn't want his neighbor to be wearing the same product, but because he has more opportunities or more exposure in those markets. But yes, there is a premium consumer. We call them a little more premium consumer than the rest. And at the end of the day, product differentiation for those set of consumers makes a lot of difference. So, I mean, I think there is a consumer there. I firmly believe that they would want to buy from your brand, but yet not know, which is why we don't use logos.
I think for us, a lot of people come and say, we shop from outside of India, and you may not have the entire assortment, and that's why it kind of pushes them to kind of explore the store outside of India. But when 80% of our customers loyal, they pretty much come back for similar things every year, and of course we continue to acquire a new customer. But in that sense, to the point just made, of course there will be these customers all the time, but the key is how do you keep expanding your customer base, and tier 2 and tier 3 cities really help in expanding that customer base, because the aspiration to buy into global brands and international brands is much higher. Yeah, there will be detractors as the brand become more easily available, but I mean, there's still a certain brand value, and that's what we need to keep and uphold.
Because I think the consumers also evolve over a period of time. Somebody who was wearing a Jack and Jones 5 years back, he probably doesn't want to wear a Jack and Jones and wants to upgrade to a more premium brand. And similar for us, I mean, in terms of somebody who's wearing another brand, a value brand, would want to upgrade to. So that is a continuous evolution which we all go through. Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? No, I don't think so. Thank you very much to the entire panel. Thank you.